Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a cool update for you from RZE. They're formerly known as RZE, and which was actually German for traveling or voyage. They're a newer microbrand upstart, and their founder was one of the key designers for a very popular microbrand that you guys have seen on the channel and all over the place, which I won't mention the specific name, but you can see a similar design aesthetic and inspiration kind of oozing through in terms of their execution. Now, yeah, he's pretty much set out to create a new vision from the ground up and has been very successful. The original inspiration was the reason why it was a German word was because that the owner was inspired by his personal Zen U1 with its clean, simple lines and scratch resistance. So this transition really symbolized, his idea of moving forward and moving kind of onward into his own creative endeavor, which I think has really benefited us within the watch community, because now you get more of what you like. Now, in terms of the type of watch, I consider this a classic field watch, although it is quite modern. Some key common characteristics and design language, you're looking for something within this space. You're going to want, of course, modest sizing. You're going to have Arabic numerals with a 12 and 24-hour scale, and typically it would be something simple like a black or a cream dial. This also fits into the everyday adventure watch space where you're looking for something that's just generally sporty, legible, and quite tough. This is the Valour 38 in Aeroleaf yellow, and the Valour 38 is essentially a clean classic field watch that displays the time at just a glance. It's made out of solid titanium with their Ultra Hex coating, which is up to 1200 hardness vigors, which is great. You can get these for $2.99 for pre-order direct from the brand, and these are estimated to ship out beginning in October of this year, 2022, depending on when you're watching. So with all that said, let's zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right, now we have a little bit of other titanium here on the scene. Nice little pry bar, and I liked that the colorway in terms of the you can see that contouring, the terrain contouring does have some pops of kind of golden bronzish tone, which I thought suited it well. And this is actually zirconia insert there. And it's nice. It's actually a limited triple aught design version of the regular Pena pry bar, and it has a little bottle opener and of course a little hex, as well as other various pry points, and yeah, it just felt right. And then this watch I feel like is right there kind of in that EDC space. Another Enrique Pena knife here, really beautiful titanium. You get the nice little micarta inlay here, and it just felt like it suited the review, so why not kick it off there? So let's take a look, guys. In terms of the colorway here, not my choice. This is what RZE sent. It's probably my least favorite, but here's what I'll say. Considering it's my least favorite color, I'm surprised by how much it's really growing on me. And that gold tone, it's kind of this school bus yellow orangish color that actually is kind of cool. So yeah, it's interesting that it's kind of growing on me. I would have much preferred, a standard black dial or, a white dial type of variant. But I think this kind of works. So it is available in a lot of different colors, so if yellow is not your thing, don't worry, there's tons of other options. This has a nice 38 millimeter diameter, has an 11.5 millimeter thickness, and then a 45.5 lug to lug. It has beautifully done satin brushed titanium with that Ultra Hex coating on top, so you don't have to worry about your titanium oxidizing and then that oxidized layer being very scratch prone, because titanium itself isn't scratch prone. It's typically the oxidized layer that's on top that is. Titanium is very hard, and because it's very strong, it can also be a little bit more brittle. So it's one of those things where, if it was a little bit softer and more malleable, maybe it might not pick up the same type of wear. So it's a bit of a trade-off. But you can see this looks gorgeous, and this is a review loaner that's made it away of I don't know how many other reviewers. So, and it still looks extremely sharp. Look at that beveling. That is beautiful, and it still looks beautiful. Like, you would never know that, you know, this had been through a lot of other stops before it got here. So in terms of the crystal, it's a flat sapphire, which I think is a great move. It goes with, of course, a lot of the flat surfaces that are on here, and it also helps with ultimate legibility. And you can see the anti-reflective treatment is doing its job, because you can hardly see it until you really get some direct reflections on there. Now the movement inside, although you cannot see because it's a solid case back, which isn't much to look at. Check it out. Yeah, with just some etching, some facts on there. It's a Seiko NH38, which is a no-date movement, so you don't have the ghost position, which is great. A lot of people like that. I'm a big fan of the NH35. I don't mind a ghost position. I feel like the engagement in terms of the crown engagement and the hacking is a little bit more crisp with that movement versus the NH38. The NH38 is a little bit, I'd say, a little touchier. This particular example has been working fine though, not too mushy or anything like that. It's working as expected. But, you know, overall, my long-term interactions with the NH38 make it not necessarily my favorite NH movement. So this crown is screw down and signed, which is great. You can see it with the R logo for RZE. And then you do get, of course, getting into the dial, it's that matte school bus yellow with printed indices and painted hands. It has no date and it's very just minimalist. You have actually Japanese superlume compound that glows green. They don't mention specifically which compound. It has 100 meters or 330 feet or 10 atmospheres of water resistance, which is great. The strap is quite nice. It actually reminds me a bit of a Haviston in terms of the way that they did the length and the sliding keeper. It's just reminiscent of that, and that's one of my favorite NATOs. So this NATO style strap is nice, and it also actually has the matching Ultra Hex titanium hardware, which is nice. They didn't have to do that, but I can appreciate that they did. So yeah, this thing's nice. With that said, let's actually get it on wrist and see how it wears. As you can see on my 7.5 to 7.25 inch wrist, it wears really well, and you can see the strap, because it is shorter, it's not necessarily about having anything fold back, but having that sliding adjustable keeper be able to move to hold that tail in place, which is really nice. So lays really great, although it is, you know, a relatively flat and angular case. It doesn't make it any less wearable. You can see great range of motion. I do wear my watch a little bit higher than I have in previous videos. I've been slowly moving more and more above the wrist bone versus being on or below the wrist bone, and I think it just makes a more comfortable wear regardless of the case. But you can see here, being only single pass, it does go underneath really nice and clean, and just feels like it is nicely worn on the wrist, and honestly almost like to the point where you can forget that it's even on there because of just how light this is. And it's not light to the point of feeling plasticky, it just has a way of disappearing, and some of it I'm sure is because the high quality strap that's has it strapped to your wrist, as well as the beautiful contouring that's done on this case in terms of wear ergonomics. So really nice, very, very sleek and lightweight, and it feels great on the wrist. And you can see it lays really nice and low. So if you're looking for something like that, not every field watch lays quite as nice. Some of them can be a bit more bubbly and protrude quite a bit. So very nice from this standpoint. But with that said, let's actually get it off the wrist and get into some loom shots, low light transition, and closing. Okay, we'll go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, very simple loom setup that does the job. You even get the nice little Easter egg of having the the 6 o'clock little branding actually be luminous, which I think is very cool. You see the little R at the bottom of the dial. But one thing I really like to do is work in some low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs or the shade of a tree, and maybe just spending some time in your favorite automobile. So it's nice to see what these colors, finishes, and textures render like in less than optimal lighting, to even include some harsh lighting, really high contrast that you're going to see here, which typically might expose any type of either wear marks or production defects. But you can see here still looks like new, and I'm really digging, if it's growing on me, this dial is so dynamic. The way that it plays with light, I'm hoping that it's actually being captured on video, because it just goes from an orange to a yellow to, like, it just plays. This thing is actually really interesting, and I don't know if it's because the Pantone is just very unique, or the actual finish in terms of it being almost like a semi-metallic finish on the dial. I'm not quite sure, but it is, again, growing on me. So very cool, and you can see still quite legible even in mixed lighting conditions, even without the direct off-camera lighting on there. With just a reflection of light, it still looks very legible. So guys, closing thoughts on the wrist. This thing really disappears, and again, very lightweight and quite sleek, which I dig. In terms of model variations, there are 6 different dials. You can get it in this yellow dial, a blue dial, green dial, gray dial, black dial, or white. I think black or white would probably be what I would go for. This is a loaner, of course, so this is going to be back on the road soon. But in terms of comparable models, there's definitely a lot of options in the affordable mechanical field watch space, as it's really booming right now. But this is a welcome addition to a very large stable of solid options. Now, in terms of the bottom line on this one, I'd say this is a lot of watch for the money, and although it's fitting really well into that field watch mold and you recognize it for being a field watch, it still manages to provide a pretty unique look and feel, which I can appreciate. It doesn't look like a variation of an existing watch, but at the same time you look at it and you know exactly what it is. So I think that's pretty cool, and definitely took a lot of I'm sure work on the design standpoint. I'm not crazy about the numeral font that's used. It might just be the color combination. It just feels a little bit too much like the numbers for me, like on a jersey. So I would have preferred a different type of text, but it does the job absolutely. And I'm sure plenty of you are looking at this and thinking, man, that thing's perfect. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.